You have not enough minerals. Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals. You must construct additional pylons. You have not enough minerals. Under attack. You have not enough minerals. You have not enough minerals. Your warriors have engaged the enemy. We are under attack. My life for hire. I long for combat. Honor guide me. What man calls? She house. I long for combat. She house. I long for combat. What thou calls? now calls. Go, Kola. She house. You've not enough minerals. You've not enough minerals. You've not enough minerals. I long for combat. She house. He saw too. I long for combat. He saw too. I long for combat. Construct additional pylons. She house. I long for combat. I have returned. You must construct additional pylons. Instructions. I long for combat. You must construct additional pylons. You have not enough minerals. I long for combat. He saw too. You have not enough minerals. Now calls. Transmitted. You have not enough minerals. Your warriors have engaged the enemy. Commencing. Confirmed. Confirmed. Commencing. Nagatsul. Commencing. Confirmed. Lotai. I have returned. Nagatsul. Input command. Galassas. Make use of me. Input command. He saw too. Thus I serve. Make use of me. I have returned. Upgrade complete. I am needed. Nagatsu. More transcalls. Production. Commencing. She house. Transmitting. But now calls. Awaiting instructions. Awaiting instructions. Galassas. Sakaladas. Input command. Receiving. Galassas. I have returned. Transmitted. You must construct additional pylons. You must construct additional pylons. Galassas. Awaiting instructions. I long for combat. Confirmed. Nagatsul. Awaiting instructions. He saw too. Galassas. You must construct additional pylons. You require more Vespene gas. Transmitted. I long for combat. What now calls? Awaiting instructions. Transmitted. I have returned. Awaiting instructions. Commencing. Text. forces are under attack. The hive cluster is under attack. Spawn more overlords. The hive cluster is under attack. Spawn more overlords. We require more minerals. We require more Vespine gas. We require more minerals. We require more minerals. We require more minerals. We require more Vespine gas. We require more minerals. We require more minerals. We require more minerals. Spawn more overlords. Spawn more overlords. We require more minerals. We require more minerals. Our forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. forces are under attack. Evolution complete. Spawn more overlords. Spawn more overlords. Evolution. Spawn more overlords. Our forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. Evolution complete. The hive cluster is under attack. Spawn more overlords. Spawn more overlords. Our forces are under attack. Spawn more overlords. Our forces are under attack. The hive cluster is under attack. The hive cluster is under attack. Our forces are under attack. Spawn more overlords. Our forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. The hive cluster is under attack. Our forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack.
I read you. Orders received. I read you. Orders, Captain. Orders, Captain.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
I read you. Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain. Orders, Captain. I read you. Orders, Captain. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain. Yes, sir. I read you. SCV good to go, sir. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain. Orders, Captain. Orders, Captain. I read you. SCV good to go, sir. Orders, Captain. I read you. Yes, sir. I read you. I read you. I read you. SCV good to go, sir. Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain. Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. I read you. SCV good to go, sir.
Additional supply
Right away,
depots
sir.
required.
Affirmative. Reporting for duty. Orders received. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. SCV good to go, sir.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
Reporting for duty. Right away, sir. SCV good to go, sir. Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain? Can I read you? Right away, sir.
Not enough minerals.
Affirmative. Right away, sir. Orders, Captain? Roger that. Finished. Affirmative. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain? SCV good to go, sir. Can I read you? Can I read you? Reporting for duty. Can I read you? Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain? Can I read you? Reporting for duty. Orders received. Can I read you?
You want a piece of me,
Can I
boy?
read you? Reporting for duty.
Jacked up and good to go.
SCV good to go, sir. Affirmative. Orders received. Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. Orders received.
Commander,
Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain? Yes, sir. Orders, Captain? Orders, Captain? Yes, sir.
Commander,
Yes, sir. Can I read you? Can I read you? Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty.
jacked up and good to go.
Reporting for
Give me
duty.
something to shoot.
SCV good to go, sir. Affirmative. Roger that. Can I read you?
Give me something to shoot.
Your forces are under
You want
attack.
a
Right
piece of
away,
me,
sir.
boy?
Orders received. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. I can't build there. Orders, Captain?
Standing by. Jacked up and good to go.
Can I read you? Can I read you? Can I read you?
Give me something to shoot.
Yes, sir.
Standing by.
Not enough
Reporting for
minerals.
duty. Reporting for duty. SCV good to go, sir. Right away, sir. Affirmative. Can I read you? Yes, sir. Right away,
You want
sir.
a piece of me, boy?
Reporting for duty.
Add-on complete.
Yes, sir.
Jacked
SCV
up and
good to go, sir.
Additional supply depot base is under attack.
Orders, Captain?
Standing by.
Orders, Captain? Right away, sir. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain? Orders, Captain? Orders received.
Not enough minerals.
Can I read you? Right away, sir. Orders received. Yes, sir. SCV
Additional
good to go,
supply
sir.
depots required.
Orders, Captain?
Additional supply depots required.
Can I read you? Orders received. Job finished. Affirmative. Orders received. Reporting for
Base is
duty.
under attack.
Yes, sir. Job finished. Can I read you? Can I read you?
Give me something to shoot.
Reporting for duty. Can I read you? Can I read you? Orders, Captain?
Research complete.
Can I read you?
Base is under attack.
Can I read you? Can I read you?
Ready
I
to
read you.
roll out.
SCV good to go, sir.
Destination? Absolutely.
Commander,
SCV good to go, sir.
standing by. Outstanding.
Reporting for duty. Right away, sir. Reporting for duty. Can I read you? Job finished. I read you. Affirmative. Yes, sir. SCV good to go, sir. I can't build there. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Can I read you? I can't build it. Can I read in the way? Orders, Captain? Roger that. SCV good to go, sir. Orders, Captain? Can I read you? Orders, Captain? Yes, sir. Reporting for
Add-on
duty.
complete.
SCV good to go, sir. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Job finished. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Orders received. SCV good to go, sir. Reporting for duty.
Ready to
Orders,
roll
Captain?
out.
Affirmative. Can I read you? Yes, sir. Can I read you? Orders, Captain? Roger that. Right away, sir. Orders received. Right away,
Ready to
sir.
roll out.
Affirmative. Job finished. I can't build there. Orders received. SCV good to go, sir. Reporting for duty.
sir.
Orders, Captain. Job
Ready to
reporting
roll
for
out.
duty. Job finished. Job's finished. Reporting for duty. SCV good to go,
Orders,
sir. Job orders, Captain. I read you. SCV good to go, sir. Orders, Captain. Reporting for duty. Roger that. Affirmative. Job finished. Yes, sir. Orders,
Ready to
Captain.
roll
Additional
out.
supply
SCV good to
minerals
go, sir.
required.
Orders received.
Not enough minerals.
Right away, sir. SCV good to go,
Additional
sir.
supply depots required.
Orders, sir. Delighted to, sir.
SCV good to
Additional
go, sir.
supply depots
I read
required.
you. Affirmative. Reporting for duty. Job finished. Orders, Captain.
Orders, sir.
Orders,
Ready to
Captain.
roll out.
Orders received. Job finished. Orders, Captain. Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Orders, Captain.
Yes, sir. Orders, sir.
Job SCV good to go, sir. Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
Ready to roll
Orders,
out.
Captain. Orders, Captain. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain. Right away, sir.
Ready to
can't
roll
build there.
out.
Orders, Captain. Job's reporting for duty. SCV good to go, sir. Job finished. Reporting for duty. I read you. Orders, Captain.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals. Not enough
SCV good
minerals.
to go, sir.
Not enough
Ready to
Good
minerals.
to go, sir. Orders, Captain. I read you.
Your forces are under attack.
Orders, sir. Absolutely.
Reporting for duty. Roger that.
Ready to roll out.
Job's finished. Job's finished. Orders,
Your
Captain.
forces are under
Ready to
attack.
roll out. Identify target.
Add-on complete.
Identify
Add-on
target.
complete.
Absolutely. Destination. Identify target.
Research
Reporting
complete.
for duty. Yes, sir.
Identify target.
Yes, sir.
Additional supply depots required.
Proceeding.
Reporting for duty.
Ready to roll
Additional
out.
supply depots required. Upgrade complete.
SCV good to go, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Ready to roll
Additional
out.
supply depots required.
Is that it? Oh, is that it?
I read you. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain.
I read you, sir.
Job's
What
finished.
do you
Your
want?
forces are under
Yeah, I'm
attack.
going.
Orders, Captain.
Upgrade
Captain.
complete. Additional supply
Job's
depots
finished.
required.
Reporting for duty. I can't build there. Affirmative. Roger that.
What do you want?
Reporting for duty.
Something on your mind? Yeah, I'm going. Something on your mind?
Orders, Captain. I read you. Affirmative.
Your forces are under attack.
Something on your
Ready
mind?
to roll out.
Is that it?
Yes, sir. SCV good to go, sir. Right away, sir.
Additional
Job's
supply
finished.
depots required.
Job's finished. I can't build it. Something's in the way.
Your forces are under attack.
What do you want? I dig. Is that it?
Job's finished.
All right, bring it on.
Yes, sir. Orders, sir.
All right, bring it on.
Delighted to, sir. Target. Ready to roll
Additional
out.
supply
Yes,
depots
sir.
required.
Destination. Yes, sir. Destination.
Job's finished.
Proceeding.
All right,
Orders, sir.
bring it on.
Delighted to, sir.
All right,
Your forces are under attack.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Identify target. Absolutely. Yes, sir. Destination. Identify target. Yes, sir. Proceeding.
Your forces are under attack.
Delighted to, sir. Moving. Identify target.
Your forces are under attack.
Yes, sir. Need that too, sir.
Is that it?
Absolutely.
I dig. Yeah, I'm going.
Your forces are under attack.
Orders, sir.
Yeah?
Need that too, sir.
All right.
Ready to
Bring
roll
it on.
out.
Your
Destination.
forces are under attack.
Yeah, I'm going. Oh, is that it?
Moving.
Your forces are under attack.
Right away, sir.
All right. Bring it on. No problem.
Orders, Captain.
Your forces are under attack.
Orders received.
Moving.
Orders received. Yes, sir.
Base is under attack.
Oh, is that it?
I read you.
All right. Bring it on.
Your forces are under
Is that
attack.
it? No problem.
SCB, good to go, sir.
Is that it? I dig.
Your forces are under attack.
Hello everyone, it's Richard Lewis here again with another. Since we last did a video on this, I know you guys are interested. I think everybody who has even a cursory interest in streaming and sort of Twitch culture and gaming culture should be paying very close attention to this case, because it's got some potentially big ramifications to come out of it. But anyway, what I'm going to be talking about today is Phantom Lord's lawyers basically went and filed what they call a demurrer, which is for all of the 4 counterclaims that Twitch had leveled against him. Because if you remember, if you followed the case, they put in their own complaints based on his activities on their platform. And in very simple terms, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but a demurrer is basically an argument that their legal argument is invalid because it lacks the particular substance required to make that argument. I think that's a fair summary. Anyway, the legal documentation has sort of all these cases that are going to be cited within. I'm just going to read it to you. It says here that the plaintiff cross-defendant, James Varga, respectfully states as follows as his memorandum of points and authorities in support of his demurrer to Twitch Interactive Incorporated, aka Twitch.tv Incorporated, Twitch's cross-complaint. By its cross-complaint, Twitch purports to bring four causes of action against Varga, namely for breach of contract, breach of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, negligent misrepresentation, and fraud. Even taking the allegations in the light most favorable to Twitch, it is clear that Twitch does not and cannot state facts sufficient to constitute a cause of action for breach of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, negligent misrepresentation, or fraud against Varga. Accordingly, Varga respectfully seeks to demur to these causes of action.
Yes, sir.
Twitch's claims are rooted in an alleged giveaway promotional event broadcast on Varga's online Twitch channel on June 25th, 2016, during which time Varga gave away $100,000 worth of online skins found within a popular video game, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, from here on referred to as CSGO. Twitch alleges that Varga made misrepresentations to Twitch and to Twitch users by omitting information which would purportedly demonstrate that Varga was in some way affiliated with a third-party website through which subscribers could cash out their winnings from the skins giveaway. Significantly, Twitch fails to allege that Varga actually made any actionable affirmative misrepresentation. At best, Twitch alleges that Varga omitted information related to his purported affiliation with a third-party website, but under these circumstances, California law does not recognize any cognizable claim for negligent misrepresentation or fraud based on an alleged omission alone. So you can see there, pretty much just to summarize all of that legalese, basically they're saying that what Twitch has made an allegation of, that he failed to disclose ownership, by doing this by omission alone, and the fact that they're still saying he didn't own the site and it's only been alleged and purported, that this isn't enough to bring the complaints that Twitch want to do against him. It also says, moreover, Twitch entirely fails to allege with specificity as required how it was allegedly harmed by Varga's conduct. In fact, Twitch acknowledges in its cross-complaint that Varga's skins giveaway resulted in a net increase in Twitch subscribers to Varga's channel. Further, each of Twitch's second, third, and fourth causes of action are merely duplicative of its claim for breach of contract alleged in the first cause of action and do not constitute independent cognizable claims. For the reasons we will now explain below, Varga respectfully requests that the court grant his demurrer to Twitch's second, third, and fourth causes of action based on the arguments we made about the first. So again, what they're saying here is that because Twitch in their complaint didn't specify what the harm was, that this is a huge oversight by Twitch's legal team. I think, again, just on the surface, you know, I do follow a lot of lawsuits. I think that's a sound argument to make. I mean, there can be reputational damage. I think that's what Twitch were alluding to. I think it's a little bit of obfuscation by Phantom Lord's legal team here to kind of say, oh, but look, there was a net increase in subscribers, and that actually helps Twitch's business. But obviously, there's a reputational aspect to this, which I think they're deliberately kind of overlooking while making these arguments. So anyway, it moves into this part here where it talks about the factual background. This is basically a regurgitation of everything that you should already know if you've been following the case. Basically, the allegations surrounding the ownership of CSGO Shuffle, whether or not the roles were rigged, sort of issues regarding subscriber counts, the giveaway that they've talked about. And you can see here that that section ends by saying, on May the 2nd, 2018, Twitch filed its cross-complaint purporting to assert claims for breach of contract, breach of an implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, negligent misrepresentation, and fraud. Specifically, Twitch alleges that Varga misrepresented or omitted information about his purported affiliation with CSGO Shuffle, and that Twitch and Twitch's users reasonably relied on his misrepresentations and omissions regarding CSGO Shuffle. Twitch alleges that as a result of Varga's purported misrepresentation, Twitch has suffered damages, but does not specifically allege what precise harm was caused to Twitch. It then brings in the legal standard. It says the Code of Civil Procedure, section 430.10, provides that a party may file a demurrer to a cross-complaint where the pleading does not state facts sufficient to constitute a cause of action. In addition, where it is alleged that a party lacks standing to sue, the complaint can be challenged by general demurrer for failure to state a cause of action in this plaintiff. And again, it cites the legal cases there. So again, this is a plea to the court, essentially, to say that they should just dismiss these elements of the counterclaim because they're not valid. There is no legal standing for them to be made.
SCP, good to go, sir.
They then present the argument that Mr. Varga respectfully submits that Twitch does not and cannot state facts sufficient to constitute a cause of action in its second, third, and fourth causes of action. Specifically, as explained below, Twitch does not state a claim for breach of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. This is the second complaint in Twitch's sort of counter-filing, where they're basically saying that, you know, the implied covenant of good faith, which was a section of their contract, was breached, and Phantom Lord's lawyers are saying specifically they haven't explained in which way. Then it says here, Twitch's second course of action contains only one substantive allegation, which fails to allege the elements necessary to state a claim, and to the extent Twitch incorporates allegations which form the basis of its first cause of action, the breach of contract, it is clear that Twitch's claim for breach of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing is superfluous and entirely duplicative of its first cause of action, and therefore does not constitute an independent cause, who also of the third and fourth claims. And then this is where it gets more interesting, because now they make specific arguments against the existence of each of these complaints. You can see here a big section: Twitch fails to state facts sufficient to constitute a cause of action for negligent misrepresentation or fraud. And it says, by its third and fourth causes of action, Twitch purports to allege causes of action for negligent misrepresentation and fraud to Varga's alleged misrepresentation or omission of information about his purported affiliation with CSGO Shuffle. Twitch must plead similar elements under both its negligent misrepresentation and fraud theories. And then again, it cites the legal casework where this was established. And it says the necessary elements of fraud are: 1. Misrepresentation, false representation, concealment or non-disclosure. 2. Knowledge of falsity. 3. Intent to defraud. 4. Justifiable reliance. And 5. Resulting damage. And again, the legal case that was established in, that precedent was set. And it says the elements of negligent misrepresentation are: 1. The defendant made a false representation as to a past or existing material fact. 2. The defendant made the representation without reasonable ground for believing it to be true. 3. In making the representation, the defendant intended to deceive the plaintiff. And 4. The plaintiff justifiably relied on the representation. And 5. The plaintiff suffered resulting damages. So again, this is the structural aspect of what legally constitutes fraudulent activity. It goes on to add, in order to plead a claim for fraud or misrepresentation with the required particularity, every element must be specifically pleaded. And again, there's a case citation. The particularity requirement necessitates pleading facts that show how, when, where, to whom, and by what means the representations were tendered. Twitch must also specifically plead the detriment proximately caused by defendant's tortious conduct, and this requires factual allegations of both the injury or damage suffered and its causal connection with Twitch's alleged reliance on Varga's alleged representations. California case law holds that the same specificity required in pleading fraud actions is required for negligent misrepresentation, and it goes on to add each element must be pleaded with specificity again. The plaintiff must allege with sufficient particularity that he or she actually relied on the misrepresentation, as well as that such reliance was justifiable. So this, again, to sort of summarize all of that, because these documents are always very wordy, and legalese is always a nightmare to kind of get your head around. But basically, they are saying the structure of Twitch's argument that Phantom Lord engaged in fraudulent activity is invalid because it doesn't meet any of the criteria under law to constitute fraud. They cite a number of cases where this has been established, precedent for it has been set. So certainly this is a very solid counter-argument on the surface of it. Again, on my cursory understanding, it looks to be an oversight, perhaps, with the initial cross-complaint made by Twitch, that they haven't been as specific enough as is required to get a ruling in their favour. They will obviously have a chance to respond to all of this. But it's going to be interesting to see what that response constitutes. Spoiler, we've already got that response. I've got it on this computer. We're going to do another video to sort of keep you up to date with everything that's been going on. Again, there's two more arguments in regards to this made below, which basically says that pretty much a regurgitation of what I've just read to you. So again, in the interest of keeping the video short, I won't read them again. I will probably put the links to the legal documents in the description so you can go read the full thing if for any reason you want to. But what does interest me is that when it comes to damages, they also allege that Twitch have basically not got a reason, that there is no finding that could back up they have suffered any damages whatsoever. You understand how crucial this is, because in this counter-complaint they are saying we have suffered damages of an unspecified nature, and we would like the court to sort of rule in our favour for that and potentially award damages. When you get damages awarded in civil cases, obviously the damages are dependent pretty much on what you can prove you've lost. You know, it can be finances, you've lost a lot of money, it can be personal anguish, and the court can decide an award for that type of thing. It can vary wildly, but there's always got to be a coherent argument as to what the damages should be awarded for and to what amount. Certainly this has come up when I've done journalistic work, you know, for example, with libelous and defamatory statements. Say, for example, if I was, as a journalist, to print a false story about somebody and they were about to sign a big, you know, record deal or a sponsorship deal worth 10 million, well, and my story was false and the sponsorship deal or recording deal or whatever pulled out, well, they've very much got an immediate figure they can come to court with. He cost me $10 million with his negligent writing, and that would be the amount that would most likely be awarded in terms of damages if the case went in their favor. Anyway, so it says here, Twitch's claims for negligent misrepresentation and fraud also fail to state any facts to support a finding that it was actually harmed in any cognizable, measurable, and compensable way by Varga's purported misrepresentations. Under either a negligent misrepresentation or fraud theory, resulting damages proximately caused by the misrepresentation is an essential element. Put simply, deception without loss is not actionable. And this is from a case, I'll read you this one because I want to actually have a read of this myself. I think that's an amazing quote. Creative Ventures LLC versus Jim Ward and Associates, 2011. This element, like each element in a fraud claim, must be specifically pleaded. In order to prevail on either a negligent misrepresentation or a fraud claim, the plaintiff must prove detriment proximately caused by the defendant's tortious conduct. Whatever form it takes, the injury or damage must not only be distinctly alleged, but its causal connection with the reliance on the representation must be shown. And again, that's a quote from another legal case. The cross-complaint contains no explanation or even a suggestion as to how Twitch, as opposed to its customers, may have suffered alleged damages as the result of any purported skins gambling which may have occurred on Varga's Twitch channel, let alone any allegation or explanations as to how Twitch itself individually suffered alleged damages as the proximate cause of Varga's purported misrepresentations regarding his purported affiliation with CSGO Shuffle. And that's obviously a key thing here. There's a perhaps clearer argument to say, oh, the people that were allegedly scammed by CSGO Shuffle with the rigged rolls, you can easily say how they suffered damages. And Twitch talked a lot about those people, and again, that was mentioned in the Covenant of Good Faith part, but obviously that doesn't necessarily specifically state how Twitch could be affected. So again, it seems like a sound, logical argument on that basis. Twitch's allegation that it experienced a large increase in subscribers during the skins giveaway, but lost nearly half of the subscribers and for others had to issue refunds, also does not cure this fatal defect in their argument. Indeed, if anything, this allegation only proves Twitch actually gained subscribers due to the skins giveaway, because half of them remained subscribers even after Varga's purported misrepresentations. In addition, Twitch only alleges that they had to refund some subscribers due to fraud-based chargebacks. Almost half of the subscribers that subscribed to Mr. Varga's channel during the skins giveaway cancelled their subscription, and Twitch received a large number of fraud-based chargebacks from these subscribers. That's obviously Twitch's legal team's quote. And it says, but a refund by definition simply returns Twitch and the subscriber to their status quo ex ante. For example, Black's Law Dictionary defines refund as to repay or restore, to return money had by one party of another. Therefore, Twitch fails to plead facts to establish the necessary resulting harm element for each of its third and fourth causes of action. So again, a little bit of semantics going on there, but it's a coherent argument, isn't it? That you know, if their argument was on the money that they were making, that it harmed them financially, they made the money and then they refunded and returned the money, so they were at status quo, so they didn't lose anything. That's effectively what they're saying here, that it is an admission that if you have to refund money that you got, you're not you haven't lost anything. You're just back to square one. Square one, by definition, isn't a loss. You haven't lost anything. So that's pretty much the argument that they've made there. And again, on the surface of it, it's pretty logical. And then I'll just read you the final part, and then we can sort of wrap up the video, and you'll pretty much be up to speed with this section of the filing, which, you know, it's a little bit behind. This was filed in June, towards the end of June, I believe. And we've had some stuff happen in July subsequently. Twitch's negligent misrepresentation and fraud claims are based on an alleged breach of contract. So they say, finally, it's clear that Twitch's claims for negligent misrepresentation and fraud are, at their core, simply a repurposing of the breach of contract theories pled in the first and second causes of action. It goes on to add here, Twitch's negligent misrepresentation and fraud claims arise entirely from breaches of Varga's representations, warranties, and obligations under the agreement with Twitch, and Twitch's claim for relief sounds in contract rather than tort. The California Supreme Court has explained contract and tort are different branches of law. Conduct amounting to a breach of contract becomes tortious only when it also violates an independent duty arising from the principles of tort law. The law imposes the obligation that every person is bound without contract to abstain from injuring the person or property of another or infringing upon any of his rights. This duty is independent of the contract. An omission to perform a contract obligation is never a tort unless that omission is also an omission of a legal duty. So, as it just adds here at the end, as explained above, Twitch does not and cannot allege that Varga owed any legal duties to Twitch, which could give rise to tort liability. Moreover, Twitch acknowledges that Varga's purported conduct related to the skins giveaway may constitute an alleged breach of his contractual obligations to Twitch. Therefore, because Twitch cannot allege that Varga's alleged breach of contract also violated an independent legal duty owed to Twitch, Twitch cannot state a claim for either negligent misrepresentation or fraud relating to what was, as Twitch alleges, a purported breach of Varga's contractual obligations under the parties' agreement. So, there's obviously a lot more to this document. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's a 50-page legal document. It will probably send you all to sleep if you haven't already gone there. But basically, at this stage in the proceedings here, what you can see is that Phantom Lord's legal team have made some pretty solid counter-arguments to the cross-complaint that Twitch have filed, basically saying that actually you should probably dismiss this if you're the court because there are several fatal flaws inherent to their arguments. So that's sort of bringing you up to date as of this moment. As I said, there have been some more rumblings going on. We're going to get that out to you as quickly as possible because I know many people who follow this channel have been pretty much fascinated by this entire case from start to finish, going all the way back to 2016. But there you have it. So, so far, you've got to say some pretty solid arguments in there. Even if you want to remove all bias and just look at them, you can certainly see what Phantom Lord's legal team are getting at. And perhaps there has been a little bit of oversight there by Twitch. But I guess we'll find out when we see what their response to that actually is. Anyway, that'll bring you up to date for now. We'll be back with another video soon. Thanks very much for watching this one, and we'll see you next time. Hello everyone, it's Richard Lewis here again with another video. Lots of catching up to do. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the Counter-Strike scene. I've been a little bit behind. I've been working on a ton of stuff, as guys who follow my stream and all of that will know. So look, let's get right into it. What I want to talk about today is something I'm sure you all saw it, but just in case you didn't, it's worth mentioning, and there's a few other little bits and pieces of information I'd like to bring to light, and that's this Norwegian cheating scandal that happened in Counter-Strike. Now, yes, we've talked a little bit about cheating actually in the most recent videos. We had the Fierce Tiger incident where, you know, I went on stream and looked at kind of like Leo's videos. It was kind of back, it was fairly obvious he was cheating. There was people who were trying to defend him for some reason. CS is weird, with a weird community sometimes. And then, yeah, then there was also sort of laughing it back sucks, people who throw out wild accusations without really backing it up and thinking about what they're sort of saying. But one thing is absolutely true, that down in that tier 3, tier 4, occasionally tier 2, very rarely, you will find people cheating, trying to get ahead, trying to get an edge, trying to win some prize money at smaller events and stay off the radar, no pun intended, as you'll see, and do it stealthily. It's the same with match fixing. We've only really fixed these problems at the highest level, down in the dregs of Counter-Strike with the semi-pros and the hardcore amateurs. It's still a bit of a fucking mess, and you are going to get examples like the one we're going to delve into today. Now, I'll say this. It's quite a long-winded story. I'm not going to give you all of the details because I'm going to assume that you saw all the Reddit posts and stuff that were coming out, but I'm just going to try and give you a little bit of structure into what happened. So look, let's start with what kicked it all off, and it was this tweet. This is from a guy called Hellberg. Now, I'll be honest, I've never heard of Hellberg. He's a Norwegian player. And he made a video. Basically was him exposing that there were these players in the scene that were using these cheats. And he had sort of been approached to use these cheats, and then eventually he said, I'm going to expose you. They kind of panicked and then tried to cover up the story and said, oh, he's just jealous. We were going to kick him. Whatever you have to say to basically hide the reality, which was that these guys it wasn't just one person cheat, it was a team of cheats, and to be on this team you had to cheat. So I'll certainly say this: Hellberg deserves like an honorary fucking medal. When you think about people who've come into the scene, thrown accusations around, claimed that they've got special inside information, very little ever materializes from it. This was a guy who could have just cheated on this team, made money, and just shut up, and none of us would be any the wiser. Didn't do that, outed the players, and did it for no profit or gain whatsoever. In fact, he did it all in Norwegian. He had to put English subtitles on the video retroactively. I don't think he thought anybody would care. Well, look, exposing any cheat who is playing in online leagues, playing in LANs, even the small ones, that's a public service, I think. And yes, Hellberg, for me, is a top guy. Definitely deserves a lot of love from the community for what he did. Now, look, I'll also just I'll go back to this view. Go on. There was a huge information dump that he put out there, and I'll just give you a summary. And it was basically that these players called Sidon, Intern, Zealot, and Zane were all cheating in this team using a private cheat, and not just a private cheat. What's kind of interesting is that it was also a hardware cheat. So there was a hardware component. You had to buy a video card that you plugged into your motherboard with it, and you bought it from this private cheat coder. And I won't give you the name, and I won't give you the website, because first of all, it would sort of advertise it, and I don't think anybody who watches my shit will want to go out there and get these cheats. But it's one of the reasons why people don't allow honest reporting and journalism around the cheating scene. Oh, you're encouraging it. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. And the thing that always stops cheats is bringing them out public, because it's not private anymore. Coders that work for Valve and and the people who work on VAC get the information, and then they can react accordingly. Sunlight's the best disinfectant, but a lot of moderators on Reddit and stuff like this, they're all, oh no, you're encouraging cheats. It's like, I'm definitely not doing that, am I? But whatever. So I will not tell you the name, even though I could. But yeah, the bottom line is, if you come to hear, is that there was
more minerals. We require 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 more minerals. Our forces are under attack. We require more minerals. We require more minerals. We require more fixed-beam gas. The hive is under attack. Spawn more overlords. Spawn more overlords. Spawn more overlords. require more minerals. Manifesting gas. Require more minerals. Spawn more overlords. Spawn more overlords. Spawn more overlords. You require more minerals. Our forces are under attack. Evolution complete. Our forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. Spawn more overlords. Our forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack.
A kemény korszakot 1997. Simenc egy picit lemarad már. Benedek.
Push underground to surprise them.
Do you miss all of our gold? Not all. Of course I missed them.
Go.
They're great people.
Il peut me
Golden
skip
is probably...
Ouais, je laisse
Flash is actually gonna flash his way right through, right into a Molotov. Doesn't matter. He holds down mouse one, but Taco finds him nonetheless, and FNX is there to pick up a kill as well. Straight into CT. Oh, FNX shows no fear, and now it's down to Shoxy and RPK in a near impossible retake.
Look at how low Taco and FNX are, but they are in a 2-on-4. That bomb plant just going to go through with 7 seconds left. And now PK, he needed that kill. They're doing so much damage, but Luminosity are staying alive here. And this retake is almost impossible, and they're just holding strong. Luminosity, they're not showing themselves. They're not giving them any opening. RPK pushing into the back, and he goes down to Cold Zero. It's all on Shox. He picks up one and goes back for more. He has no grenades. Luminosity in overtime here, looking for the shot. Shox gonna pick up one more. Triple for him. Oh, he gets the quad kill. Are you kidding me, Shox?
require more minerals. We require more minerals. We require more minerals. Require more minerals. Spawn more overlords. Require more minerals. Spawn more overlords. We require more minerals. We require more minerals. Our forces are under attack. We require more minerals. We require more minerals. Spawn more overlords. require more minerals. Spawn more overlords. Our forces are under attack. Require more minerals. Our forces are under attack. Require more overlords. Require more minerals. Require more minerals. Spawn more overlords. Spawn more overlords. Evolution complete. Our forces are under attack. We require more minerals. Spawn more overlords. Spawn more overlords. Require more rescue gas. Our forces are under attack. Evolution complete. Require more Vespine gas. Spawn more overlords. Our forces are under attack. Evolution complete. We require more minerals. Forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. Forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. Forces are under attack. We require more minerals. 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 Evolution complete. Forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. Forces are under attack. Our forces are under attack. Spawn more overlords. Spawn more overlords. Our forces are under attack.
Orders, Captain? Right away, sir.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
I read you. I read you. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. SCV good to go, sir. Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty.
Not enough
Reporting for
minerals.
duty. Orders, Captain?
Not
Orders,
enough
Captain?
minerals.
Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain? Orders, Captain? Can I read you? Can I read you? Yes, sir? Can I read you? Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty. Can I read you? Yes, sir? SCV good to go, sir. Roger that. Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain? Can I read you? SCV good to go, sir. Orders, Captain? Orders, Captain? Yes, sir? Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain?
Additional
Roger
supply
that.
depots required.
Job, yes, sir. Orders received. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Roger that. Reporting for duty. Orders received. Yes, sir. Can I read you? Reporting for duty. Orders received. Reporting for duty.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
Orders, Captain. Orders received. Can I read
Not
you?
enough minerals.
Yes, sir. Reporting
Not
for
enough
duty.
minerals.
Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Reporting
Not
for
enough
duty.
minerals.
Orders, Captain. Orders, Captain. Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Roger that. Can I read you? Orders received. Affirmative. Job's finished. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain. Affirmative. SCV good to go, sir. Roger that. Reporting for duty. Roger that. Orders received. Affirmative. Job finished. SCV good to go, sir. Affirmative. Can I read you? Right away, sir. Can I read you? Orders, Captain? Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain? Can I read you? Yes, sir?
You want a piece of me, boy? Rock and roll.
Orders, Captain?
Go, go, go.
Job's finished.
Let's move. Outstanding. Rock and roll.
Can I read you? Right away, sir. SCV good to go, sir. Yes, sir?
Jacked up and good to go.
Yes, sir? Yes, sir? Orders, Captain? Right away, sir. Orders, Captain? Right away, sir. Roger that. Orders, Captain? Can I read you? Orders received. Right away, sir.
You want a
Orders,
piece of me,
Captain?
boy?
SCV, good to go, sir. Affirmative. Can I read you? Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Roger that. SCV, good to go, sir.
Not enough
Yes,
minerals.
sir. Orders, Captain? Yes, sir. Orders, Captain? Orders, Captain?
Your forces are under
Orders
attack.
received. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Job's finished. Reporting for duty.
Standing by.
Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. SCV, good
Not
to go,
enough
sir.
minerals.
You want a piece of me, boy?
Orders, Captain?
Not enough minerals.
Can I read you?
Add-on
Orders,
complete.
Captain? Job's finished. Roger that.
Additional supply depots
Reporting for
required.
duty. Roger that. Reporting for duty.
Additional supply
Reporting
depots
for duty.
required.
Can I read you?
Insufficient phosphine gas.
Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty. Job's finished. Orders, Captain? Affirmative. Reporting for duty. Can I read you? Right away, sir.
Base is under insufficient phosphine gas.
Orders, Captain?
Identify target.
Insufficient phosphine gas.
Orders, sir. Delighted to, sir.
Yes, sir.
Orders, sir. Proceeding. Delighted to, sir. Orders,
SCV,
sir.
good to go, sir.
Absolutely.
Orders, Captain? Roger that.
Yes, sir.
Base is under attack.
Reporting for duty. Roger that.
Destination. Moving.
I read you.
Orders, sir.
SCV, good to go,
Absolutely.
sir. Reporting for duty.
Yes, sir.
Orders, Captain? Reporting for
Research
duty.
complete.
Yes, sir.
SCV, good to go, sir. I read you. SCV, good to go, sir.
Your forces are under attack.
Identify target.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ready to
Reporting for
roll
duty.
out.
Roger that. SCV, good to
Identify
go, sir.
target.
SCV, good to go, sir. Orders, Captain? Orders, Captain? Right away, sir. Orders, Captain?
Identify
SCV, good to go,
target.
sir. SCV, good to go, sir. Orders, Captain? Orders, Captain? Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty. SCV, good to go, sir.
Ready to roll
Reporting for
out.
duty. Job finished.
Identify target.
Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Orders received.
Yes, sir. Orders, sir.
I read you.
Additional
Report for
supply
duty.
depots
Identify
required.
target.
Job's finished. Job's finished. Yes, sir. Orders received. Roger that. Right away, sir. Roger that. Affirmative. Orders, Captain?
Ready to
Roger
roll
that.
out.
I can't feel right away, sir. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain? Roger that. Job's finished. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Can I read you? Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty. Job's finished. Can I read you? Job's finished. Job's finished. Yes, sir. Orders received. I can't build there.
Yes, sir.
Reporting for duty. Roger that.
Destination.
Additional supply
Moving.
depots required.
Ready
Job
to roll
reporting for
out.
duty.
Destination. Identify target. Yes, sir. Orders, sir. Absolutely.
SCV, good to go, sir. Orders, Captain? Can I read you? Orders received. Job's finished. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. Yes, sir. SCV, good to go,
Destination.
sir.
Absolutely.
Job's finished. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain? Job finished.
Ready to roll
Orders,
out.
Captain? Roger that. Can I read you? Yes, sir.
Destination.
Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. Yes, sir.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
Right away, sir. Orders received.
Destination.
Orders, Captain.
Not enough minerals.
Orders received. Orders, Captain. SCV good to go, sir. Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain. Right away, sir. Affirmative.
Destination. Moving.
Orders, Captain.
Destination.
Go, sir. Job finished.
Proceeding.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Job finished.
Orders, sir. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Job finished.
Identify
Job
target.
read. I read you. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. Orders received.
Destination.
Orders, Captain. Reporting for duty.
Upgrade
Orders,
complete.
Captain. I read you.
Bring it on.
Affirmative. SCV good to go, sir.
Add-on complete.
I read you, sir.
Identify target. Orders, sir.
SCV good to go, sir. Job's finished. Yes, sir. Orders,
Ready
Captain.
to roll
Right
out.
away, sir.
Identify target.
All right, bring it on.
Job's
Research
finished.
complete.
Absolutely.
Job's finished. Job's finished. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Yes, sir.
Not enough minerals.
Yes, sir. Destination.
All right,
Additional
bring it
supply
on.
depots
Orders, sir.
Go,
required.
sir.
Orders, sir.
Yeah?
Orders, sir.
Reporting for duty.
Ready to roll
Additional
out.
supply
bring it on.
depots required.
Orders, Captain. Orders received.
Destination.
I
Proceed.
read you, sir.
Moving. Delighted to, sir.
What do you want?
Destination.
No problem. Oh, is that it?
Destination. Absolutely.
Yeah?
Destination. Delighted to, sir. Orders,
What
sir.
do you want?
I read you.
Identify target.
Yeah?
Destination.
Something
Identify
on your
target.
mind? Yeah, I'm going.
Job's finished.
What do you want?
Identify target. Absolutely. Orders, sir. Absolutely. Orders, sir.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Is that it?
Destination.
Yeah, I'm going. Something on your mind? I read you, sir.
Destination.
Bring it on.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Something on your mind?
Upgrade complete.
Job's finished.
Ready to roll out.
Additional supply
Reporting for duty.
depots
I read
required.
you.
Identify target. Orders, sir. Delighted to, sir. Proceed.
What do you want?
Yes, sir. Destination. Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
All
Additional
right,
supply
bring it on.
depots required.
Orders, sir.
What do you
Orders,
want?
sir. Destination. Identify target.
Job's finished.
Something on your mind? I read you, sir.
Absolutely.
I dig.
Additional supply depots required.
Proceed. Delighted to, sir. Absolutely.
I'm going.
Orders, sir.
All right, bring it
Destination.
on.
Reporting for duty. Job's finished.
I dig. No problem.
Your forces are under
Yes, sir.
attack.
Orders received.
Ready to roll out. Absolutely.
No problem.
Delighted to, sir. Moving.
All right, bring it on. Oh, is that it?
Orders, sir.
What do you want? No problem. Oh, is that it?
Orders, Captain.
Orders, sir. Moving. Identify target.
All right, bring it on.
Yes, sir. Move
I read you, sir. Yeah, I'm going. Oh, is that it? Yeah? I read you,
Upgrade
sir.
complete. Your forces are under
Destination,
attack.
identify target.
Job's finished.
Yes, sir. Proceeding.
All right, bring it on.
Yes, Destination, moving.
Something on your mind?
Ready to
No
roll out.
problem.
Absolutely. Delighted to, sir. Absolutely. Ready to roll
Additional
out.
supply depots required.
Proceeding.
Moving.
Is that it? I dig.
I read you.
Additional supply depots
Reporting for
required.
duty. Right away, sir.
Your forces
I
are
can't
under
build
attack.
No problem.
I read you.
Moving.
Can't
Proceed.
build it. Something's in
Destination.
the way.
Identify target.
I read you.
Yes, sir. Destination.
Job finished.
No problem. Is that it? No problem.
Your forces are under attack.
Is that it? Yeah, I'm going. No problem. Oh, is that it? Something on your mind? No problem.
Your forces are under attack.
Orders, sir.
Yes, sir.
Destination. Absolutely. Moving.
Calling online.
Identify target.
All right, bring it on.
I read you. I can't build there. Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. Job's finished. I read
Your
you.
forces are under attack.
Ready to roll out.
Yeah? Oh, is that it?
Job's finished.
No problem. I dig. Something on your mind? What do you want? Yeah?
Your forces are under attack.
Is that it?
Reporting for duty. Job's finished.
Orders, sir. Delighted to, sir. Ready to roll out.
Your
Orders,
forces
sir.
are under attack.
Yes, sir. Moving. Proceeding.
Oh, is that it?
Moving.
I read you, sir. No problem. Oh, is that it?
Orders, Captain.
Your forces are under attack.
I read you.
Ready to
Reporting
roll
for
out.
duty. Orders received.
Yes, sir.
Your
Delighted
forces are
to,
under
sir.
attack.
Yeah? I dig.
Upgrade complete.
Yeah, I'm going.
Goliath online. Intercom locked.
Yes, sir.
Bring it on.
Absolutely.
Reporting for duty. I can't build there. Affirmative.
Ready to roll out.
Yes, sir.
All right, bring it on.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Destination.
Something on your mind?
Goliath online.
Yes, sir.
I
Absolutely.
read you, sir.
Moving. Orders, sir. Yes, sir.
All right,
Proceed.
bring it on.
Destination.
Acknowledged HQ.
Yes, sir. Job finished.
All right, bring it on.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Roger that. Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain?
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
Reporting for duty.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. Can I read you?
Not
Can I
enough
read you?
minerals.
SCV good to go, sir. Reporting for duty. Can I read you? Reporting for duty. SCV good to go, sir. Roger that. Affirmative.
Not enough minerals.
SCV good to go, sir. Roger that. Reporting for duty. Can I read you? Can I read you? Orders, Captain? Can I read you? Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain? SCV good to go,
Additional
sir.
supply depots
Orders, Captain?
required.
Orders, Captain? Job's finished. I read you. Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty. Can I read you? Can I read you? Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Right away, sir. Orders, Captain? Yes, sir. Orders, Captain? Yes, sir. SCV good to go, sir. Affirmative. Can I read you? Yes, sir. Orders received. Yes, sir. SCV good to go, sir. Orders received. Right away, sir. Affirmative. Reporting for duty. Orders received. Orders, Captain? SCV good to go, sir. Yes, sir. Job's finished. Can I read you? Affirmative. Reporting for duty. Can I read you? Affirmative. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain? Can I read you? Yes, sir. Job's finished. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain?
You want a
Orders,
piece of me,
Captain?
boy?
Reporting for duty. Right away, sir. Can I read you? Right away, sir.
Give me something to shoot.
Reporting for duty. Roger that. Can I read you? Roger that.
Not enough
You want a
minerals.
piece of me,
Good to go,
boy?
Not
sir.
enough minerals.
Reporting for duty. Right away, sir.
Not enough minerals.
Jacked up and good to go.
Orders, Captain? Can I read you? Affirmative. Reporting for duty. Orders,
You
Captain?
want a piece of me, boy?
Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain? Orders received. Right away, sir. Reporting for duty. Roger that. Yes, sir. Reporting for duty.
You want a piece of me, boy?
Orders received.
Your forces are under
Affirmative.
attack.
Roger that. Affirmative. Orders received. Roger that. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Can I read you? Roger that. Right away, sir.
Not enough minerals.
Can I read you? Reporting for duty. Can I read you? SCV good to go, sir.
You want a
Reporting
piece
for
of me,
duty. I
boy?
can't build yes, sir.
Jacked up and good to go.
Additional supply depots required.
Orders, Captain? Affirmative. SCV good to go, sir.
Standing by. Let's move.
Go, go, go.
Add-on complete.
Jacked up and good to go.
Not enough minerals.
I read you.
Commander, go, go, go. Give me something to shoot. Let's move. Outstanding. Standing by. Outstanding.
Affirmative.
Additional supply depots required.
I read you.
Not enough
Right away,
minerals.
sir. I read you. Roger that. Yes, sir. Roger that. Right away, sir. Reporting for duty.
Base is under attack.
Yes, sir. I read you. Orders, Captain. I read you. Reporting for duty. Orders
Ready to
received.
roll out.
Your forces are under research complete.
Moving. Proceeding.
Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Yes, sir.
Jacked up and good to go.
Reporting for duty.
Jacked up and good to go.
I read you. Yes, sir.
Ready to roll out.
Yes, sir. Orders, Captain. Job finished. SCV good to go, sir. Right away, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. Roger that. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty. Orders, Captain. I read you. Reporting for duty.
Ready to roll
Not
out.
enough minerals.
SCV
Not
good to
enough
go, sir.
minerals.
Proceeding. Delighted to, sir.
Not enough minerals. Insufficient Vespine gas.
Yes,
Not
sir.
enough minerals.
Reporting for duty.
Yes,
SCV
sir.
good to go, sir.
Moving.
Right away, sir. Roger that. I can't build there. I read you.
Not enough
Affirmative.
minerals.
Yes, sir.
SCV good to go, sir. I read you. I can't build it. Something's in the way. I can't build there.
Research complete.
Reporting for duty. I read you. Orders,
Ready
Captain.
to roll out. Identify target.
Job
Additional
finished.
supply depots required.
Orders, Captain. Reporting for duty. I can't build there. SCV good to go, sir. Orders, Captain.
Insufficient
Orders
Vespine
received.
gas.
Reporting for duty.
Yes, sir. Proceeding. Delighted to, sir.
Reporting for duty. Orders received. I can't build there. Affirmative. Job's finished. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain. I read you. Job's finished.
Orders, sir. Yes, sir.
Job's
Destination.
finished. Orders, Captain.
Additional supply depots required.
Right away.
Additional supply depots required.
Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Right away,
Not
sir.
enough minerals.
I read you. Orders received.
Upgrade
Ready to
complete.
roll out.
SCV good to go, sir. Affirmative. I read you.
Additional
Orders,
supply
Captain.
depots required.
Right,
Orders,
bring it
Captain.
on.
Right away, sir. Job finished.
Right, bring it on. Yeah?
Identify target. Proceeding.
Something on your mind?
Job
I
finished.
dig. Yeah, I'm going. I dig.
Your forces are under
Identify
attack.
target. Delighted
Something on
to,
your
sir.
mind?
Job finished.
Something on your mind?
I read you.
Something on your mind? All right, bring it on.
Orders,
Identify
Captain.
target.
Affirmative.
Something on your mind? What do you want? I read you, sir.
SCV good to go, sir.
Identify target.
Bring it
I
on.
read you. Roger that. Reporting for duty. Yes, sir.
All right,
Something's in
bring
the
it
way.
on.
I read you.
Add-on complete.
Ready to roll out. All right,
Not
bring
enough
it on.
additional supply depots required. Your forces are under attack.
Identify target. All right, bring it on. I read you, sir. Yeah, I'm going.
Add-on complete.
Yes,
Additional
sir.
supply
Bring it on.
depots required.
Yes, sir. Reporting for duty.
Ready
Yes,
to
sir.
roll out.
Right away, sir.
Your forces are under
I
attack
read you,
is
sir.
required.
Job's finished.
Destination? Yes, sir. Something on your mind? Identify target. Orders, sir. Something on your mind? No
Job's
problem.
finished.
I read you,
Orders,
sir. Proceeding. Delighted to, sir.
Job's finished. Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty.
Orders, sir. What do you want? Yes, sir. What do you want? Yes, sir. Orders, sir. Yeah?
SCB good to go, sir.
Orders, sir.
SCB good to go, sir.
All right.
Orders received.
Identify target.
Yes, sir.
Additional supply
I
depots
read job's
required.
finished. Yes, sir. Roger that.
Additional supply depots
I read you,
required.
sir. Ready to roll out. Absolutely. Identify target. Delighted to, sir. Something on your mind? Identify target. Something on your mind?
Your
Target.
forces are under attack.
I read you, sir. No problem.
Job's finished.
Oh, is that it?
Your forces are under attack.
What do you want? Yeah? I read you, sir. No problem.
I read you. Right away, sir.
Yeah? I read you, sir. Oh, is that it?
Your forces are under attack.
Something on your mind? Orders, sir! Proceeding. Ready to roll out. All right, bring it on. Yes, sir. Proceeding. Delighted to, sir. Oh, is that it? Yeah, I'm going. I dig. No problem. What do you want?
Your forces are under attack.
Orders, Captain? Yes, sir.
Identify target. Delighted to, what do you want? Identify target. Yeah. Destination. What do you want?
Captain?
Something on your mind? All right. Identify target. Destination. Proceeding. Something on your mind? Delighted to, sir.
Your
Yeah.
forces are under
I
attack.
dig. Identify target.
Job's finished.
Yeah.
Orders received.
Something on your mind? Yeah, I'm going. No problem. What do you want? Yeah, I'm going.
Upgrade complete.
Right away, sir.
I read you, sir. Ready to roll out. Orders, sir. Identify target. Standing by.
Yes, sir. I read you.
Yeah? Yeah, I'm going. All right, bring it on. Destination? Absolutely.
Your forces are under additional supply depots
sir.
required.
I read you.
I read you, sir. Orders, sir. I read you, sir. No problem. Move it. I read you,
Your
sir.
forces are under attack.
No problem. I read you, sir.
Job's finished. Reporting for duty. Job's finished. Affirmative.
Your forces are under attack.
Delighted to, sir.
Orders, Captain? Reporting for duty.
Your forces are under attack.
Bring it on. Delighted to, sir. I dig.
Job's finished.
Destination.
Your forces are under attack.
Yeah, I'm going. I dig.
Orders, Captain? SCV good to go, sir.
Bring it on. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Your forces are under attack.
I dig. Something on your mind?